I bet those glasses make you see better.
The bloody one.
You said that men should have the same standard body count as the women they're dating?
Yeah, so the question was if I disagreed with anything that's kind of talked about on the show. I feel like a lot of the times in the red pill community, a lot of guys want women to have a low body count, which I agree with, but then they'll have a very different standard for themselves, which, to be fair, I think body count is different for men and women. I think men can have a higher body count than women and still with it working out. But I think if you're a man who has a body count of 100 and you turn down a girl who's perfect, but she has a body count of 15, and just because you're against the body count issue, you have no room to talk.
So you think
Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
I mean, do you think it's hypocritical? You think it's unfair? What?
I think it's the same reason that you want a woman to have a lower body count. You'd kind of want the man to have a lower body count. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hypocritical. Which, again, I still state that it's different for men and women.
Right, but you would agree. Well, I don't know if you would agree with me, but do you think that there are certain things that women want that they don't possess themselves?
Yes.
Okay, like, would it be hypocritical, for example, for a broke woman to have a preference or be attracted to, like, a really rich guy?
I think I think it would be strange for a woman. It would be really rich of her to be like, oh, I only go for millionaires, as she is making no money.
I don't think it would necessarily make her a hypocrite.
I mean, I think it would just, she wouldn't have room to talk. Like, she can't be that picky.
Okay, well, how about this one? A woman who's not a professional athlete. So you're kind of muddying the water a little bit here by saying only wanting to date this. So is that your original position? So, like, what if a guy, his general preference is towards low body count women, but he himself has a high body count?
Okay.
Well, even if I was going to say, you know what, I'll just bite on it. So the guy with a high body count, he only wants to date low body count women.
Okay.
Don't actually have a problem with this. I don't see what's wrong with it. Would it be wrong for, I shouldn't even phrase it this way. What would actually be wrong with a woman who has a preference for dating professional athletes, but she's not a professional athlete? And women do this.
Yeah.
Like, women do this
Why
frequently.
do they do it? They do it for the money and the fame, right?
Or they're just attracted to professional athletes. I don't know. I
mean, now we're getting down to, like, what the root cause of attraction in that specific case is. But I think if she was going after...
It's money and power, right?
So if she's going after money and power, then I would call her a gold digger.
But, I mean, can you help who you're attracted to?
No.
Okay.
I think you can actually... I think you can work towards it.
You work towards it, okay. But if you can't help generally, like, can you right now find men you find unattractive attractive?
I can somewhat push myself into it, but I'd prefer not to.
Not generally, though, right?
Correct.
So if you only found men who were 6 feet tall attractive, is that something... You're not 6 feet tall, right?
Right.
Okay, so are you a hypocrite?
I mean, I see what you're saying. I think we're talking... Like, what's the purpose of wanting a woman with a low body count, right?
Because you're more attracted to it.
You're more attracted to it, but why?
Well, let's just assume that whatever the reason is fucking ridiculous and stupid. Let's just assume it for the sake of the argument. So what? Even if it was the case that it was just a stupid and ridiculous reason why they were attracted to it, is that any less stupid and ridiculous than the reason you're attracted to men who are 6 feet or taller?
I mean, I think it's fair to want a woman with a low body count. I'm not against that.
Yeah, but that's not really the question. The question isn't whether or not you think it's fair. The question is about attraction, right? When you're talking about being attracted to men, right, who are, let's say they're over 6 feet, do you find men who are over 6 feet attractive?
I think it's, I guess then, how does he feel about the fact that he does have a high body count? And is that something that...
How do you feel about the fact that you're not 6 foot?
I didn't put in my question in there to be 6 foot,
if
but...
if I can jump in really quick.
But let's just say you're attracted to men who are 6 feet or taller.
Uh-huh.
What would be actually wrong with that?
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's just a little bit hypocritical. That's it.
Because you're not 6 feet or taller yourself?
No, I'm saying the body count debate is a little bit hypocritical.
Well, I don't understand the difference, though. If you're attracted to
You
a
also
man,
can't control your height.
If you're only, you can't control it, but that's my whole point.
You can
can't
control your body count.
height.
You can control who you put it in.
Okay, maybe, but so what? Are you attracted to black men?
I mean, I can find them conventionally attractive, but they're not my type. Typically, no.
Okay, and if there's white people who are not attracted to black men, is that somehow wrong because that's an immutable characteristic?
I don't think it's wrong. No.
Yeah, so
but body count is something you can control.
You just said you can control this thing, right? But you can't control height or things like this. It's like, but you can't control skin color either, and that could ruin your chances for conventional attractiveness, can't it?
Right. You can't control your skin color. You can't control your height. And
So you can't control.
but you can control your body count.
Sure. But what if you're attracted to women who have a low body count? You just don't want to have a low body count yourself.
I mean, I think it would just be a little bit hypocritical because the reason you want a woman with a low body count is because she is all yours. You have like the privacy of her. I'm trying to look for the specific word. I can't think of it, but like, she's all yours. She hasn't been passed around by a bunch of men. I wouldn't want a man who's been passed around by a bunch of women. You know what I mean?
Okay. So you're saying you wouldn't find that attractive?
A man who's been passed around by a bunch of women, not necessarily. I'm not saying he has to have a body count of 0.
I think that's fair. I think that there's some women who wouldn't find that attractive.
Yeah.
But I think the overwhelming majority of men don't find it attractive when women have high body counts.
I agree.
And so here's where we run into this kind of issue. So that woman, there was a woman, you just heard her talk, who said, you would be lucky to be with a woman like me. You're still a virgin. It seems that she's equating status with men who are able to have lots of sex with beautiful women. That's really strange. Why would women, do you think, equate status with men who have sex with many beautiful women, but also give them a lower status if they've had sex with no women?
I wouldn't give him a high status. I don't think like that
specifically.
woman.
I'm asking about women. Why is it that women seem to give a higher status to men?
I can't give you an answer because that's not the way I think.
Women, and give a lower status to men who have sex with no women.
You're asking me to explain. You're asking me to explain the reason why a woman thinks the way she does when I don't think anything like her.
Did she say beautiful women?
Beautiful.
When she said
that she said that she was conventionally attractive, and that the other woman was conventionally attractive, and that these men would be lucky to have them because they're still virgins, you see. So if that's the case, it sounds to me like she's assigning a lower social status.
I think it's because she thinks women are the gatekeepers.
Than she would assign to a man who was able to, I don't know, pull women in her category, right?
I guess she's the hypocrite because she's thinking that women are the gatekeepers of sex, schmex. Women are the gatekeepers of schmex, but at the same time, that men, like, she's saying the same thing, but for both sexes.
Do you smoke?
Somewhat.
Yeah, you shouldn't. Does that make me a hypocrite?
How do you feel about it?
That you shouldn't smoke.
Okay, so I think we all do things that we know are bad for us.
Yeah, does it make me a hypocrite, though? I'm smoking.
I think a little bit.
If I tell my 10-year-old not to smoke, am I a hypocrite?
No, I guess not. Because you...
How come I'm not a hypocrite when I tell my 10-year-old not to smoke, but only a hypocrite when I tell you not to?
No, I mean, if you told both of us not to,
I feel like it also comes with age, like when you're legally allowed to.
Hang on. Before the sisterhood kicks in, I just want to finish the exchange.
I mean,
10 years old, why is it if I tell my 10-year-old not to smoke, even though I'm a smoker, that I'm not a hypocrite?
I think it's because you have a responsibility to instill knowledge and to instill values and to instill like behaviors into your child. You have a responsibility over this kid. You don't have any responsibility over me.
It's also leading by example.
Here's where the problem comes in, is that you misunderstand what the word hypocrite means. Hypocrite does not mean I am doing the same thing I'm telling you not to do. That's not hypocrisy. Hypocrisy requires pretentious acting. That's what hypocrisy.
Not believing what you're saying.
If you're really fat and you're on a treadmill and you look over at a guy who's really fat and you say, hey, you shouldn't be so fat. That's not healthy for you. There is no hypocrisy there. He's correct. That guy is fat. He does need to lose weight. The status of you being fat has no bearing on that whatsoever. It's only if publicly I said smoking is bad, let's say, and then privately I was smoking away, then I would be a hypocrite.
So it's not believing the things that you're putting out there.
Yeah. There
Right.
would be a sense of acting, yes. So if a man says that he prefers a woman with a low body count, and he himself has a high body count, where's the acting?
Okay, so that's what I said, is that it depends on how he feels about it. If he regrets it and
No, he doesn't regret it. That's all he seeks is virgins, and that's all he wants. Mm-hmm. How does that make him a hypocrite?
Because he's not practicing what he believes.
No, he is practicing what he believes.
Or he isn't putting...
He believes that he should have a high body count, and she shouldn't.
I mean, I don't know.
So where's the hypocrisy?
Let me think.
It's just like, let's just say I'm fat, because I am, and I wanted a woman who was skinny, right? Am I a hypocrite?
That's your preference.
Of course. That's not hypocrisy. That's not what hypocrisy
No,
means.
it's not.
I think you have a bad idea of what hypocrisy is.
I think with the smoking thing, it's more about like trying to, what's the word? You want your son to grow up to maybe not have the habits that you have. So it's more about setting a good example.
So it's not hypocrisy?
It is hypocrisy, but
How is it hypocrisy, though?
well, if you're smoking,
If I smoke and tell you smoking is bad, that's not hypocrisy.
well, it's no.
It's if
but
I tell you smoking is bad and I would never smoke.
if
and then
you
I'm
if you're
smoking when
smoking a
not around,
cigarette
that would
in
be
front of your son and then tell him not to smoke a cigarette, that's
That's
hypocritical.
not hypocrisy.
Okay.
Wait, so then, okay.
So what
not
is
what
hypocrisy
man,
Let me-
So then the man in this scenario, he would say a high body count is bad, but then he has a high body count himself.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
body count for
I'm getting a little bit lost on our
See what you're
definition
doing?
because
What
I
you're
feel like
doing-
we're
Here's
bouncing
what you're
back and
doing.
forth.
What you're doing is classic reframing, right? Sure. In a case where a man says high body counts are bad, right, and he has a high body count, maybe you could make the equation of hypocrisy then. But that's not what men say.
Okay, so
They're saying,
I guess that was
they're saying, I
my
have a high
statement.
body count, and that's fine, and I want a woman who has a low body count. That is not hypocrisy.
So my statement is, I guess I should have clarified in the note, that a man who thinks that a high body count is bad and prefers women with lower body counts, but then at the same time goes out and sleeps with a bunch of women, while also saying that having a high body count is bad, I think that that's hypocritical.
Well, that would be hypocritical.
Okay.
Who's doing that?
So let me So that was the clarification on my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean, if there was a serial killer who told you serial killing was wrong, he's not being a hypocrite. It's if the man was actively pursuing serial killers because he said it was wrong and then secretly he was serial killing, then he would be a hypocrite, right?
So, like, for example, like, I've seen I think their name is Fit and Fresh. I think I've seen Fit and Fresh say having a high body count is bad, but then at the same time, they'll talk a lot about...
I can tell you right now that I can tell you Myron's exact position.
Okay.
Myron's exact position is that men and their status equation with having a high body count for women actually makes them more attractive to women. And women who have a higher body count makes them less attractive to men. And here's how he backs this up. And it's really hard to argue this point. Because what he says is, look, women will usually insult men and put them in a lower social category if they haven't had sex with multiple women. They say you can't pull women, you're in a lower social category. Women, though, never put men in a lower social category because they have slept with many women.
I actually, if I go on a date with a guy and he tells me he slept with like loads and loads of girls, it actually puts me off him.
Sure.
If it's
your
like
preference of attractive, hang on, your preference for attraction may go down. Sure. But that doesn't mean his social status goes down with women, because it doesn't.
It's
Your particular and specific preference may go away. Just like your preference may be to have blonde-haired guys. That doesn't mean that the social status of a man goes down because he doesn't have blonde hair. The truth of the matter is the social status of men, at least in the current society, if they can have sex with beautiful women, is real high.
Well, that's
and the
depressing.
social status for women having sex with multiple men is not, because it's really easy for women to do that, isn't it?
It's of course, pretty much any woman can walk outside and,
but almost no
get
man
laid
can.
within
So
5
if
seconds.
if you and I go out to the street tomorrow and we're holding a sign and you say, first man who honks, I'll suck your dick, right? And I say, first woman who honks, I'll sleep with you. Who do you think is going to get honked at first?
Probably the girl for sure.
Of course,
Yeah, the girl for sure. So it's not some big feat. It's not some great task that you've accomplished, is it?
Oh, absolutely not. I don't think
But
that
for a
a woman
man,
having a
it
huge
is.
body count is something to be proud of at all.
But for a man, it is actually a big task, isn't it? That if you could pull tons of beautiful women, that actually is something, which is not something most men can do. But for women, it seems to be super duper easy. So that's why the social status seems to be associated with
Got
that.
it.
You said something specific. You said if he can sleep with many beautiful women. I think women can sleep with a lot of men, but certain women choose to be chaste, right? That's the word? Chaste?
Yes. And their value goes exponentially higher.
Exponentially higher. So
Man's does not.
if you look at a man and you're like, oh yeah, he can definitely get it, but then you talk to him and he's like, yeah, I don't throw myself around there. I think maybe we can go around
Most
and
women
ask.
see that as a red flag, actually.
Can we actually
Most
go around
women-
and ask? Because
Most women will see men in their 30s who are virgins as being red flags. What's wrong with them?
okay,
What's going on with him? What's the problem with that guy?
okay, but like if I see a conventionally attractive man, and I know that he could get any woman in the bar at that specific time, and then I come up to talk to him, and he's like, "Yeah, I've actually only really had one relationship, I only had one partner." That would instantly make me attracted to him.
Yeah, that's hot.
I honestly think everybody here would agree with that. I think we can see an attractive man, understand that he can get it, but knowing that he didn't is hot, and it's the same way for women.
Yeah, well, let's find out if this is true. Okay? We'll do this with just a quick social experiment.
I'm ready to be proved wrong.
I want you, if you have slept with more than 3 men who have had only one body or less, raise your hand. If you have slept with more than 2 men who have had more than 5 bodies, raise your hand.
Wait, can you say that?
If you have slept with more than 3 men, and those 3 men have had more than 5 bodies, raise your hand.
Wait, sorry, I was getting confused.
What's confusing about this?
Sorry,
It's a man.
I zoned out.
Hang on. If you've slept with 3 men,
Not 3,
men,
no, sorry.
okay, who have had more than 3 women, raise your hand. Raise it up. Come on, raise it up. You fucking lying sack. Raise your hand. Yeah, there we go. But nobody was raising their fucking hand when it came to the man who had only slept with 1, but you want me to believe that you just find them to be conventionally attractive. Yeah, right. Sell me some more bullshit some other time.
I feel like it's kind of hard to find men that's only slept with like one good guy, especially like where we are at, like in LA and stuff. I feel like a lot of people, like, typically it's either you haven't had sex with anyone because you're saving yourself, or like you've had sex with more people when it comes to men. That's how I feel.
Let's see. Let's put this to the test. Do you think it's easier to find men with a lower body count or women with a lower body count?
Women.
You think it's easier to find women with a lower body count?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Shall we go through the stats?
Just because we can get more doesn't mean that we do.
Hang on. Shall we go through the stats of how many men remain virgins versus women by the time they're 21 years old? You want to go through those stats?
Love to hear
Let's
it.
do
would.
it.
Let's
Maybe
do
it's
it.
because
We
they're
can go
watching
through it all
porn
the
and
way
they
up
don't
to
have
30.
hunter mentality.
Men definitely have a lower body count than women in general.
Definitely have a
Yeah.
lower body count.
I disagree.
Generally speaking, than women do in their same age bracket. And why? Because of sex selection. It's just sex selection. They just can't.
Maybe I've seen the wrong
think-
people
I
because
think-
all the men I know
Like
slept with
women.
multiple
I think it's
women.
also age brackets. So I feel like women women get more action when they're younger. So between the ages of probably, I'm pulling this out of nowhere, but probably like 18 to 22. And then men are probably getting more action once they've actually set up their careers. They're making more money in the field. Women are more attracted to them. So then it's like 24 to 26.
Nah, they stay sluts for a minute.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, when to, at which, I'd actually really be interested in seeing the numbers on this, is when each sex kind of accumulates their body count at what ages, generally. Do you understand what I'm saying?
He's not
even here.
He's
But
gone. Well, here.
Do we understand what I'm saying?
Well,
Like, kind of at what age
but
range?
I want to bring it back to like the central thing that we were talking about. Hide the Discord really quick until he's back. So to your original point, you're like, oh, well, a guy who has a high body count, if he desires a low body count woman or a virgin, blah, 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 like that's wrong, whatever. But on that same questionnaire, you indicated that you have an expectation that men pay for first dates. Mm-hmm. Okay. You have that expectation, you have that desire, you have that want. Do you pay for first dates?
I mean, I haven't gone on many dates, but the ones I have, no.
Or even if you don't go on many dates, do you want to pay for the first date?
No.
So you desire something in a partner that either, in this case, the trait of willingness to pay for the date, you don't possess said trait of willingness to pay for the date, yet you want men to pay for the date.
I don't think it's wrong. I think what we clarified was it would be me saying that it's wrong to want men to pay on the first date. And then expecting that out of men. Because that's what we clarified with Andrew on, was that I clarified my opinion was that I think a man who thinks a high body count is bad, but then expects that out of a woman, that is hypocritical. And I think that's what we agreed on, was that that's the definition of hypocrisy.
But what if it just is the case that it is the case, perhaps this is pattern recognition, that this high body count man, through his experience and through getting that high body count, he's realized, well, it seems like the women that I've had longer term relationships with, or the more pleasant women, or just like a general vague sense of lack of an ick or whatever it is, he's come to that determination through his high body count. I prefer low body count women. Mm-hmm. What's actually wrong with that?
I feel like everyone's allowed to have their own opinion.
Don't we all want to get the best that we can get?
Yes.
And if we can get it, we're going to go for it. So if it is the case that the highest quality women, the best quality partners, girlfriends, wives, whatever, the lower body count, the better, wouldn't even men who are promiscuous themselves have a preference towards low body count women, because these women lower likelihood of STDs?
But does he think a high body count is bad?
Does he think a high body count is bad?
In women, he thinks a high body count is bad.
Let's say he thinks it's...
Because that was the clarification that we came upon, was that if he thinks it's bad, but... Because that was the definition of hypocrisy.
If he thinks that having a high body count in general is bad,
yes,
right? Like, oh, this is bad. This is blah 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 blah. He can still, a man can have a preference even if he has a high body count to have a woman with a low body count. That's not hypocrisy. It would only be if he's making a moral advocation of X while at the same time doing X. That would be what would make him a hypocrite.
Agreed.
Definitionally, it would be. I'll just tell you the definition.
But agreed. So he wouldn't be continuing having a high body count.
To have moral standards or beliefs to which one owns behavior does not conform. That's hypocrisy.
Okay, so he has a belief that having a high body count is bad, but his actions, as you just said, don't conform to that.
How is his actions not conforming to it?
After having a high body count that he doesn't regret, or he doesn't think, hey, maybe...
Let's say he does.
I
Let's
shouldn't
say he
have done-
regrets it, but he still has a preference for a woman with a lower body count. That wouldn't make him a hypocrite, right?
Wait, I'm sorry, say that again? There's like people screaming.
So let's say he says, high body counts in men and women are generally bad, right? They're bad. Men shouldn't be promiscuous and women shouldn't be promiscuous. But in my dating life, I prefer women who have a low body count. That is not hypocrisy.
But wasn't that what we agreed on was hypocrisy?
No, you said something different earlier, I think.
Well-
You said that there was an advocation that he was saying a high body count is bad while he was out fucking.
Right, that's
That
what I'm,
would be
that's, that is what I'm saying, is that
Yeah, but that's a distinctly different thing.
if he settles down and says, I'm not going to increase I'm not going to keep doing what I'm doing and keep sleeping around, that's what I'm saying, then that's fine. But if he continues sleeping around and at the same time he's, let's say, running through all of us and telling every single one of us, high body count is bad, high body count is bad, and just running through us, that's when I think it's kind of silly.
Yeah, that would be a moral advocation of a thing you don't actually believe. True,
Yes.
if you're saying, but that's only if the inference is towards the man. If he's saying in both men and
saying both.
women, this is bad, then yeah, that would be a hypocrite.
I'm saying
Correct.
both.
Yes, if that was his advocation, both. That's bad, and they continue to do the behavior, yeah, that would be hypocrisy, correct?
That's my statement. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but that doesn't help us reconcile anything. Because it's not actual hypocrisy then if a man has a high body count prefers a woman with a lower body count. It would just come down to preference, right? Not hypocrisy.
Can I?
Okay, so
quickly say
I'll
something?
take the paper and I'll rewrite my statement into exactly what you and I just stated. Is that, and I'll write it with the 1,500 characters, is that if he...
Well, it's not 1,500 characters. I'm just making sure that we're clear on what it is we're talking about. That's all.
And yes, that is the clarification, is that if he continues saying that a high body count is bad, but continues in those actions, and we're talking about men and women, not for men, not for women, and
Yeah.
continues in those actions, I think that's hypocritical.
Well, and the other thing is to remember, like on the Myron side, everything that he's saying there when it comes to power dynamics between men and women seemingly plays out socially as being at least somewhat true. When men have these ridiculously high body counts, they pull in, let's just say that they slept with 300 women, right? And they're, multimillionaires and things like this. Their social status in society doesn't seem to go down a bit.
Well,
it just doesn't seem to go down a bit. And
just
yet
because
it
they
seems to
win,
drastically nosedive for women.
Just because they win from it doesn't mean it's good. Like, just because I'm making
I'm not
money
saying
from
it's
OF
good.
doesn't mean that's good.
Look, I don't advocate for that.
Can I just
I'm
say something
explaining
really
to you
quickly?
why he comes to this
Just wait.
conclusion.
I've been waiting.
Can you guys finish up your
Yeah, I'm
exchange?
Done. I'm done.
It's literally
Go
just
ahead,
going to
go
be
ahead.
30 seconds.
Is it related to this topic?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
And I know this, I'm not condoning, I don't know, but men, I think, are hardwired to sort of, this is very cringe, but to spread their seed. And women are meant to, because, they're pregnant for 9 months. So it's like, on an animalistic level, it kind of makes sense that maybe men would have more sexual partners than women.
I could agree with that.
I wish I'd explained that better, but
Well, just because you're programmed or want to do something doesn't necessarily mean it's correct. Like, for example,
biology.
I understand, but you can say the same thing about gay people. They make the same argument. Well, I was born and I was wired to have schmecks with the same sex. So it's right for me to do it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's the argument that they make.
But I feel like there are people, like, men are actually meant to have, do that. Like, that's just a choice. Like, people
I agree.
So, but that's actually in the guys are there to produce. So I could see why it could be more, because
I think that's where religion comes in, is that, okay, so are we saying that cheating on your wife is good just so you can spread your seed all over? No, because
I'm not saying it's acceptable. I'm just saying that maybe that's one of the reasons why it's more acceptable in a way for a man to have a
think it's
higher body
simpler.
count than a woman?
I think it's way simpler than this. I think that in women's lizard brain, man who virgin, right, can't pull women, red flag come up in lizard brain. Man who lots of women like, green flag come up in lizard brain. Super simple. I don't even think it's that complex.
She wants a
oh,
virgin,
lots of women like him. There must be something about him that's great. Oh, women don't like him. There must be something about him that's bad. I think it's really that simple. I think that all of this is you're or trying to make something complex that's not really that complex. If it is the case that women avoid the company of a man, right? Likely, it raises a red flag in the lizard brain of other women. Why is everybody avoiding the company of this man? And if you see a man, on the other hand, who women seem to really enjoy his company, I think that you go, well, I wonder what that's all about. That's what I think. I don't even think it's that complex.
Well, the question was, what did I think about it? Did I think it was hypocritical? Maybe all the women here don't think it's hypocritical. Maybe they all want a man with a high body count. But I'm saying for me personally, I think it's hypocritical, and it's not something I would want in a partner. And again, I'm not saying you're also making a black and white statement. You're saying he's either getting thousands of women or he's getting no women. I want somebody who's like over here.
That's what
I'll
I
make
was
it
trying
super
to say.
simple. I'll make it super simple. Me and Andrew don't have objections to women having the preference of, I myself as a woman want a low body count man. But would you be willing to agree to this? That generally speaking, women are far more forgiving of promiscuity in men than the reverse. Like, women will deal with, if the guy's super attractive and he's got a high body count, then that's like less of a big deal. Whereas promiscuity in women is a bigger issue.
I can agree to that on a societal level.
Okay.
I'm not saying on a personal level, but on a societal level, yes, women.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's the case for you.
Yes.
But I would say, generally speaking, women either care a little bit.
I agree.
Less, don't care at all. Chris Brown, who's probably slept with hundreds, if not thousands of women, and also has a history of like
I could see that.
Alleged domestic violence, or maybe it was, is it alleged? I don't know, whatever.
You just look at the
Men
groupie
do tend to
phenomenon.
care more. That's for sure.
Like literally, just look at the groupie phenomenon. There's rock stars out there. They got hundreds of female groupies who are just on demand to sleep with them whenever they want. That does not happen in reverse. That it does not happen. You don't see a bunch of females out there who are big pop stars and this and that who have hundreds of male groupies who follow them around. You just don't see it. It's not the same thing. When you're looking at the social status, what is compelling all those women to fuck the rock star? What is doing that? What is compelling those women to get a hold of this serial killer in prison and have sex with him? What is the deal with this, right? That is not a phenomenon which happens in reverse. It doesn't happen in reverse.
Although, I don't know, there's a lot of desperate dudes, though. Like, the dudes who fuck Bonnie Blue.
Simps.
Yeah, that is
I don't know
pretty
if that's a
freaking
fair
wild.
comparison.
Yeah, but it's not impressive because any woman can go out tomorrow and be Bonnie Blue. Any woman sitting at this table tomorrow can walk out in the middle of the street, hold up a sign, say any man who wants to fuck me right now can, and there's going to be an unlimited supply of men who are going to pull
Bonnie
off the
Blue
pit
is
stop
revolting,
and
but
bang 'em.
so are the
Now,
men
if
who
a
are
dude
who are
goes out there
engaging
and
in
holds up
that.
a
They are
sign
revolting as
and
well.
hang on, lady. If a man goes out there and holds up a sign and says, "Hey, I'm open for business," okay, he's going to go home real fucking disappointed. That's just the truth.
Wait,
that is the truth.
I have a really good test. I have a really good test for this. Anya, who's a guy, maybe you can give us a male celebrity, who's like your celebrity crush, who you really find super hot, super attractive?
Morgan Wallen. And I'm sure he has a body count of 1 million.
Morgan Wallen. But so the question is, hold on. God damn. The question is, if you knew that he had slept with 1,000 women, but he wanted a long-term relationship with you, and he was serious about you, whatever kind of relationship dynamic you wanted, would you date him?
Is he?
It's behind him.
I mean, yeah. I would still get in. I would if he said, "I'm done with this lifestyle. I'm done with sleeping around with tons and tons of women, and I'm ready to commit to just to you." I'd be
then,
like, okay.
Sure. And then how about this? He's still actively kind of being promiscuous, but you get the opportunity to hook up with him. Do you do it?
Probably not.
Probably
no,
not.
I
Really?
don't like a roster.
You pass off?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I don't have a roster. I don't like being on a roster.
But there's no male celebrity you could think of, like, despite him being maybe promiscuous actively, let's like remove like risk of STDs or whatever from this.
No.
You would.
I think just leads to heartbreak because schmex for women is very different than schmex for men, and women get very attached.
Okay. Are there any girls here who, like your male celebrity crush, whoever you think is like super attractive, maybe they're promiscuous, maybe they're not, let's assume they are, would you have a casual encounter with your, I don't know, the guy who you think is like the sexiest man in the world, whatever?
Like, for example, so let's say he was messing around still. Would I still do something with him? Is that what you're asking?
Sure.
I mean, if like I want.
Here, let's start with this. Who's your male celebrity crush? Does somebody else? I'm sorry. Can somebody else who can actually give me an answer? Just please give me an answer.
I can try. Okay, so my celebrity crush is Theo Von, right?
Okay.
If he asked me out on a date, I would definitely go, and he's obviously slept with thousands and thousands of women. But would I just have a casual one-night stand with him? Probably not, because I've never done anything like that before.
Sure, but you don't rule him out as a potential partner.
But
No.
But just so I can get through this, what about you, Chloe?
Literally Morgan Wallen is like one of my biggest celebrity crushes.
Okay, would you?
But I wouldn't sleep with him if I just met him. But I would if he wanted a long-term relationship.
You're a
like you were
fucking
saying.
liar! You're a fucking liar!
All right. What about you?
I would say maybe Zac Efron. I wouldn't.
Okay, Zac Efron.
Yeah.
Okay, what about you?
Honestly, I can't think of anybody.
Okay, what about you over here?
No, I wouldn't, because.
Well, hypothetically, if
What was that?
hypothetically, if you weren't.
No, hypothetically, I
You
wouldn't.
don't have
Even
it.
if I was single, I find it meaningless to have casual sex.
Okay, what about? Would you? Okay.
What about a date? Would you go on a date with him?
No,
Your celebrity
because
crush?
no, because if there is no intention or purpose behind that date, I wouldn't.
No, there's an intention. He's willing to date you.
Okay, yeah, if it's going to lead into something more with purpose and like commitment.
What if your
sure.
celebrity crush had slept with 1,000 women before, though?
It would definitely be in the back of my mind, but I don't think it would be equal to what a guy's perspective would be towards women.
Okay, so the point I was trying to make here is, at least for me, you could present to me whatever the most attractive woman I've ever seen. If I know, even for a casual encounter or long term, if I know that she's actively promiscuous, it's 100% a deal breaker. If she fucked a dude last night, I don't care how hot she is. For me, it's a wrap. It's over. Don't care how hot she is. Don't care how outside of my league she is. Don't care. If she fucked another dude last night, not interested. If she's got a high body count, not interested. It's just 100% a deal breaker for men. Well, excuse me, I shouldn't say.
For you.
It's for me. For me, it's 100% a deal breaker. Don't care how hot she is. Don't want to have sex with her once. Don't want to friends with benefits. Don't want a relationship. Don't want anything with a girl who's currently actively fucking other men or has a past of promiscuity.
Well, let's say like is someone like, for example, how you guys were talking about how if a guy like wanted to change his ways, like let's say a girl when she was younger and or whatever was doing a bunch of stuff like, and they didn't want to be like that anymore, you would say that that would affect it like completely. Like you wouldn't give them like any benefit of the doubt. Like
there you go. That's the $1 million question, right? You finally kind of hit on the thing we're getting at here. So I think that since all of you basically said, if it came to my celebrity crush and they're reformed, I would still go on a date with them, and maybe if things went well, yeah, I would definitely settle down with a guy. Maybe he's a really good guy, something like this. For a lot of men, it's a complete disqualifier immediately, right? Even your past still remains with you. There's a lot of this that happens where women will move over to the Christian church, right, after having a love life filled with threesomes and every horrible thing in the world. And they should, right? They should come into Christ. I agree with that. But it doesn't erase their past. You don't get to buy a new reputation. So a lot of them think that they deserve to have men who are extremely high quality, even though they have that past, and, well, they don't. Men still have a preference against that. They're like, well, you know, you did fuck 300 guys, and I'm going to, take a hard pass on that, or, even 20, or 15, or 10, and the reason for that is because exponentially, it makes them feel like they're not special, really. If you think about it, isn't that really what they would feel like? Like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I have you, but so did fucking half the block, right? They wouldn't. Why would it make them feel good about themselves, right? That's not an accomplishment, right?
When you mentioned groupies, I'm not saying you were using it to justify it, but when you mentioned groupies as a example of kind of how this dynamic works, I don't think just because it happens that it's okay, and I think it's also just a product of dating culture.
Well, look, I agree. I don't think male promiscuity is good. I don't think female promiscuity is good.
So we're on the same page about it.
On both fronts. I think both are bad. I'm not in the same camp as a lot of different people are. I think it's bad for men generally to be promiscuous, but I also understand social dynamics. And while I can say both things are bad, I can clearly tell that women care way less about it than men do. Then if that's the case, then that needs to be taken into account in the dating scene, right? It really does. Because what happens is women limit their prospects later for fun now.
I feel like, yeah, and if that's like something that someone wants, I feel like there shouldn't be a problem in it looking, because everybody, like when you're looking for somebody that you want to be with, like everyone's going to have certain standards. So I feel like if that's just what somebody wants to hold a standard to, then I would say that is their right to do so. Some people are different, but I feel like that is completely like understandable if that's something like in their future, like where they know like they're going to spend the rest of their life with this person. If that's something that they wanted to have in a woman, then I feel like that should be respected, because there is a million different people.
The thing that's funny about all this is like, I can tell you how history is going to go. Like in a crystal ball right now, I'll tell you exactly how it's going to go. You can imagine that men, let's just say men magically tomorrow had access to the NFL en masse. They could all just go play for the NFL. Whenever they, basically any of them could just go do that. A lot of them would go do that, and they would get brain damage, they would get fucked up, they get all kinds of messed up going and playing in the NFL. Right? But when they were young, they wouldn't care, because they'd be making a bunch of that NFL money. They wouldn't care. They wouldn't think about the stage 2, stage 3 of life. They would only think about that stage 1. What we're seeing right now is the phenomenon of women in the same exact mindset. They can all join the NFL. They can all join OF and be part of that sexual elite and make that big bag of cash, easy money, right? But that's only stage 1. What happens when you get to stage 2 and stage 3? Well, the boxers, men who box, they get brain damage, they get messed up, they have all sorts of consequences. Men in the NFL, all sorts of consequences. Men who do these things end up with severe damage in exchange for that money. Same shit's going to happen to all these OnlyFans girls. Same stuff. They're not preparing for the future. They're not preparing for the future them. They're only preparing for the right now them. And you can imagine the damage that would do to men if they had that kind of access, but for some reason, women don't even think about the amount of damage they're doing to themselves.
Well, then you've got to blame the men in a way, because they're the ones who are paying for it.
You got to just let him finish his thought before you.
Yeah, you're gonna run into stage 2 of life, and you're not there yet. And when you get there, you're gonna realize that, oh shit, there's a heavy, heavy price and a heavy toll to be paid for the bag now.